When you can accept that this is what you are feeling, whether it be anger, sadness, embarrassment, or shame, and when you can just be with that emotion in a compassionate awareness, you'll feel confident that you can feel and do anything. Welcome to the Connect Method Parenting Podcast, where correction is out, connection is in, and your kids want to listen to you. I'm Andy Martineau, creator of Connect Method Parenting, here to help you stay calm, confident, and connected no matter what. Yo, everybody. Welcome back to the CMP Book Club series. It's a 15-part series. I know, crazy, right? Where every Thursday for 15 weeks in a row, I jump on here and read you a chapter from my book. So glad you're here, but if you are catching this midstream, I do recommend jumping back to episode 32. That's where this whole saga began. Unless you want to totally ignore me, which you are completely welcome to do, and just continue on from here. This book lays out the foundational framework of CMP, showing you how you can honestly stop trying to get your kids to listen to you using consequences, rewards, ultimatums, bribes, timeouts. I could keep going. They don't work long term. And instead, realize that it's the relationship and the connection that's going to get your kids to want to listen to you. I've also created a free companion guide or workbook for you to use along the way so you can integrate what you learn in each chapter and make this your reality in your life. So if you want to grab a copy for yourself, you can get that at CMP for Connect Method Parenting, but it's just cmp.works because CMP works /CWB for companion workbook. I'll put the link in the show notes too, so you don't have to remember that. All right, you all ready? Let's dive into today's chapter. Chapter 8, Emotions are the Fuel. Crying is a valid way for children and parents to process emotions. Emotions are the result of your thoughts. One morning, I walked into my clean kitchen and thought, I love that my kids remembered to clean up dinner last night. I felt grateful. I stared at the perfect kitchen a little longer, sent all the kids thank you texts, and went on with my day. Let's break that down. What I found: dishes washed, surfaces wiped, floor swept, trash emptied. What I thought: I love that my kids remembered to clean up the kitchen. How I felt: gratitude. What I did: I stood in the kitchen and stared a little longer, sent all the kids thank you text, and went on my way. What I ultimately created: I appreciated myself and my kids. I celebrated that things were working. Every thought you think, whether you're aware of it or not, creates an emotional reaction in your body. This emotion becomes the fuel that moves you into action. Emotions are like electricity. They are charged and send you into action. Everything you do is because of how you feel. If you see the messy house and feel motivated and content, you might turn on some music and start cleaning. If you see the messy house and feel overwhelmed, you might run some errands to avoid it. If you see the messy house and feel angry, you might round up the kids, lecture them for not picking up, and demand they start cleaning. The actions you take are directly related to the emotions you're feeling. Do I need to feel positive to take positive action? On a recent live coaching call, I got an excellent question from a mom I'll call Emily. Emily said, if feelings create actions that lead to our results, don't we need to get rid of negative emotions and only feel positive emotions to create positive action and results? I answered, I love this question. The answer is no. You can feel negative emotions in your body without letting that emotion be the fuel that drives your actions. The more mature our brains become, the more capable we become of holding two contrasting emotions at the same time, and then deciding which fuel we are going to use to move us into action. Let me give you two examples. The first one is non-parenting related. The second one is parenting related. So the first one, every time I go to post something on social media, I feel anxious. The same top playlist of thoughts and beliefs start popping in my head. No one wants to hear this. You don't have anything new to say. You're probably going to sound silly. I bet people get bugged by seeing you post so often. Everyone has already said everything that needs to be said. What right do you have to post anything? Because this happens so often, I've done a ton of thought downloads and thought work to find these thoughts. I knew finding them was important for me to keep posting on social media. Over the years, I've gone from wanting these thoughts to go away to becoming friends with these sneaky beliefs and emotions. You might think ignoring or evicting those thoughts and emotions from your brain is the only way to change the situation. That kicking them to the curb is how you'd go from feeling self-doubt about posting to feeling confident about posting. Nope. The opposite is true. How does the saying go? I think keep your friends close, but your enemies closer. It's something like that, right? Your self-sabotaging beliefs are the enemy to creating the life you want with your kids. The best way to not let them run your life is to understand them, to normalize them, to not believe them, to stop thinking they're true. Once you know all their tricks and discover all the ways they try to influence you, voila. Then they can come and go as they please and won't have any impact or influence over you. Let me break this down to show you how you go from rejecting to accepting to disbelieving your self-sabotaging thoughts. Hearing me walk through it step by step is going to make it easier for you then to see what's going on in your brain and your body. When I'm getting ready to post on social media, here's what happens. I notice the beliefs and emotions that pop up as I get ready to post something. Because I'm aware of the self-sabotaging beliefs and emotions, I say to myself, oh, there you are again, right on time. I see you. I give myself a little validation. I acknowledge that there's part of me that feels scared. A part of me that thinks posting is a bad idea. I remind myself that it's not a problem to think or feel that way, that this is totally normal for humans. I take a deep breath and intentionally think, I am learning to share my message no matter what. Thinking that fills me with the emotion of determination. Then I post on social media. Am I technically changing my thoughts? It's more like I'm changing the thought I'm focusing on. I stop focusing on the thought, no one wants to hear me, and I start focusing on the thought, oh, there you are again. I see you. Once I change the thought I focus on, I feel the emotion shift from self-doubt and fear to determination and acceptance. Often, the original thoughts don't magically disappear. I notice them popping into my brain for a while. I think they're hoping they'll fool me, but I just don't believe them anymore. I focus my attention on the new thought. I'm learning to share my message no matter what. Then I post on social media. So how does that look in real life? I started here. I was working on prepping to post on social media. I was thinking, you don't have anything new to say. That got me feeling self-doubt. So I started to spin and worry, distract myself from posting. I started collecting lots of evidence that I shouldn't post on social. What would have happened, I wouldn't have posted anything on social media. Then I transitioned to this. I started noticing all the self-sabotaging thoughts that came up as I was prepping to post on social media. Then I thought, oh, there you are again, I see you, which got me feeling curious. Then I kept noticing the thoughts and feeling the emotions that came up. I welcomed them in, reminded myself this is totally normal, which meant I didn't believe those old thoughts anymore. I finally ended up here. Same situation, prepping for social media, noticing the self-sabotaging thoughts, but not believing them anymore. I started thinking, I'm willing to be uncomfortable if it means I can help another parent. I began feeling determination, which led me to start posting on social media, even though part of me was feeling anxious, nervous, or worried. So I ultimately shared something on social media about Connect Method parenting. You don't need to be a positive Polly to get amazing results. You need to be accepting Annie and feel all the emotions, not just the positive ones, to get amazing results. So here's a real life parenting example. This was the default program that was running in the background every time I found my child's room messy. Here's what happened. I'd walk into my child's room and see the following: unmade bed, dirty clothes on the floor, plates of food under the bed. Yes, for real. My thought was, my children should not leave their room looking like this. I felt anger. I would then go on a little rampage, yell at the kids, tell them to clean their room right now, threaten a consequence, then start feeling guilty for yelling and not asking in a nicer way, beat myself up for not figuring out how to teach my kids to clean their rooms, start thinking I'm failing as a mom, which ultimately created a disconnected relationship with my kids and myself. The room usually got cleaned up, but was messy again the next day. Discovering this felt horrible at first. I had to look reality in the eye and realize I was making things worse by how I was behaving. I could see my weaknesses and flaws sprinkled all over. I judged myself. Becoming aware of this thought pattern enabled me to create a new one. I wasn't sure how to do this at first, but I knew I wanted to figure out how to react differently to the messy rooms. One day, I wrote out a plan for myself. Step 1, anger equals pause and get curious, not punish and criticize. I decided to change what it meant when I felt angry. Instead of making anger mean there was something wrong, I used anger to trigger my brain to pause and get curious. I would tell myself, when you get angry, interrupt the old thought and think this new thought instead. This is anger. I wonder what's causing this anger. Here's what this started to look like as I answered this question for myself and got to the root of what was causing my anger. So what was happening was I noticed the emotion of anger pop into my body when I walked into my child's room and saw the unmade bed, the dirty clothes on the floor, plates of food under the bed. Then I asked myself, I wonder what's causing this anger. I began to feel curious. Then I paused, interrupted my pattern of criticizing and punishing. I discovered that the thought the kids should not leave their rooms like this, they are lazy, was causing the anger. The result? I didn't end up yelling. I believed I could figure this out. Give yourself a generous amount of time in step 1 as you work through this. There's no rush to go to step 2. There will be a part of you that will want to jump to step 2 ASAP. I get it. My brain does the same thing. You're an amazing parent, and you want nothing more than to stop feeling angry about the messy room and instead handle the situation with patience, compassion, and firmness. But if you jump into step 2 before you're ready, it won't work. You won't be able to believe something new if you haven't untangled, understood, and neutralized your subconscious thoughts that have been running on autopilot for a while. Step 2, make a new way of thinking about it. Understanding your default thinking in step 1 means you've taken ample time to feel your emotions and neutralize the situation. The process widens the gap between the stimulus, the messy room, and the response, how you handle the messy room. Now you're ready to create a new way of thinking about it. Here's what mine looked like in the case of the messy room. The situation was the same. Unmade bed, dirty clothes on the floor, plates of food under the bed, but my thought about it changed to, I can figure this out. So I started feeling calm. That led me to come up with a solution to the problem, talk to the kids. In the end, I was able to figure out how to get the room cleaned up today and make a plan to keep it clean in the future. You don't have to eliminate the negative emotion to start taking positive action. I can feel the emotion of anger in my body and feel the emotion of acceptance, compassion, and competence all at the same time. The residue of anger might still be there, but the emotions of acceptance, compassion, and competence are running the show. Part of you can feel angry and part of you can feel acceptance. You get to choose which emotion you want to fuel your actions. You don't have to only feel positive emotions to create positive results in your life. If you had to wait until you felt only positive emotions, you'd be waiting a very long time before creating anything positive. And that's the best news ever.
Nothing can stop you from creating amazing connections with your kids. Part of you can feel icky about the dishes stacked up in the kitchen, and part of you can feel confident you'll figure out how to get them all washed in a jiffy with the kids' help. This is really where the magic is. Not in trying to feel happy and positive all of the time, but in knowing that no emotion is a problem. All emotions are welcome. No matter what spectrum of emotions you feel, you can shift and create whatever you want. Nothing can hold you back. This is freedom. I am frustrated versus I have frustration. English is immature in its ability to describe emotions. We use language like, I am frustrated or I am angry. It's confusing and sounds like the emotion is part of the person. Without realizing it, we define ourselves by the emotions we are feeling. French more accurately describes emotions. In French, they say, I have frustration or I have anger. Seeing the emotion as something you have instead of something you are disassociates the emotion from having anything to do with who you are. Instead, the emotion is something you temporarily possess, like an article of clothing or a piece of fruit. Now I have it, and now I don't. It would be odd to say, I am a phone or a vintage t-shirt, because they aren't things that define us. We would say, I have a phone or a vintage t-shirt. These things, like emotions, don't define us, but they have the potential to fill our lives with meaning and vibrancy. This distinction is critical if you are to untangle yourself from the emotions that constantly run through your body. It releases you from feeling anything but curiosity about the variety of emotions you experience daily. When the emotions mean nothing about you, your ability to feel the emotion and then release it becomes greater. You are not ripping out a part of you when you release an emotion. You are more accurately changing into a new set of clothes to see if you like how this emotion feels instead. If you like it, you keep it around. If not, you can let it go. You might be visited regularly by some emotions you would prefer not to feel. Anxiousness visits me regularly. I've spent lots of time understanding where this emotion comes from in different situations, but that doesn't keep it from visiting me almost daily. Almost every day, I feel the hum of anxiousness. I notice it. I feel it. Some days, the residue of it stays with me all day. It's not a problem that I have a bit of anxiousness with me. I can totally handle it. I think of it like a little ring I get to wear for the day. It's not a strong emotion that's fueling the train, just the residue of an emotion wanting to hang out on the journey. Start by understanding the power of reframing your emotions as I have frustration instead of I am frustrated. Then start modeling it for your children. I recommend teaching them the difference between thinking I am frustrated to thinking I have frustration inside of me. I taught this to my children, and I encourage the parents I work with to do the same. To define yourself by the emotions you feel is exhausting and inaccurate. Releasing any attachment you have formed between emotions and your identity is transformational. Emotions don't define you. They direct you. Emotions aren't you. They pass through you. Emotions fuel every action. Emotions fuel every action you take. When the kids start fighting, your response will be different if you're compassionate instead of frustrated. The emotions you feel flavor the actions you take. Amazing emotional fuel means amazing actions, but this doesn't mean you just wait around for amazing emotions to pop into your body. You would never do that with your car. You would drive to the gas station, spend your hard-earned money, and make sure your tank is full of the right kind of fuel. It's the same with emotional fuel. You don't just wait around until you feel peace or patience pop into your body. You go get it. You take full responsibility for making sure you have all the emotional fuel you're going to need to stay calm when the kids are fighting in the car or stay patient when there is more water outside of the bathtub than in it. The GET plan. One night, I laid down with one of my kiddos as she cried and cried. She talked about how people had called her mean. She recognized that she had been mean. Sometimes I feel like I'm mean, she told me between sobs, and I don't know what to do. She didn't want to be mean. She hated that sometimes she lost her temper or said words she regretted. I told her, "You're not a mean person. That's not who you are. We all decide sometimes to not love. That includes you and me. If we could figure out how to always choose love, we'd choose that every time, right?" She nodded, wiped away a tear, and looked at me, hoping I would tell her she wasn't the mean person she'd started to believe she was. That's right, sweetie. If you could always choose to be kind and loving, you would. At your core, you are love. Loving feels so much better than not loving. Sometimes in the moment, love isn't an option for us humans. We've practiced choosing to be frustrated or hurt so often that we decide to choose that in the moment. But that doesn't mean that's who you are. You are kind and loving through and through. She came up with an intention to say nice things to other people. Together, we created what I now call the GET plan to help her with her intention. G, gentle. Practice being gentle and compassionate with yourself. Don't beat yourself up if you mess up. I told her, when you realize you just did it again, said something unkind to your sister, remember that just because you decided to not be nice in that moment does not mean you aren't a nice person. E, emotions. Feel your emotions, all of them. Welcome them all in. The ones you feel when your sister starts to push your buttons, and the ones you feel if you mess up and say something unkind. I told her, remember, you have anger. You aren't anger. Come talk to me and how you're feeling, or practice noticing where you feel different emotions in your body as they pass through you. T, time. It takes time to change. Be patient, I told her. It will take time for it to seem normal to be patient and kind when people are pushing your buttons. At first, it might feel weird. You'll be tempted to respond the way you used to. Just keep practicing, and eventually it will feel natural.
If you're new to Connect Method Parenting, I have a great way for you to get started. I created a free course that covers some of the biggest challenges parents are facing and how Connect Method Parenting solves them. In an hour, we're going to talk about why parenting is so hard, how to get your kids to want to listen to you, how to stop yelling and losing your cool, and become that calm, confident, connected parent for good. It's the fastest way to get started using connection as your go-to tool for influencing and impacting your kids. Go to cmp.works/course to get instant access today.
T, trying. You're always trying to do your best, I reminded her. If you could have done better, you would have. What you do or say is not who you are inside. You're amazing, even when you think you're failing. After we came up with a plan, she smiled with relief and fell asleep as I laid by her side. I recommend writing the GET plan down along with the intention. You can create a GET plan for you or your child. It's simple, powerful, and it works. Don't let your past define you. You are whatever you practice. When you decide to make a change in your life, it's going to feel awkward and uncomfortable at first. That means you're doing it right. It won't feel natural until you practice it. So let the practicing begin. Chasing emotions. Everything you do, you choose to do because of how you believe it will make you feel. Everything you don't do, you choose not to do because of how you think it will make you feel. Emotions are the fuel that drive your actions. You get your kids to bed on time because you think you'll feel relief once they are down. You're looking forward to having an entire hour to yourself. You avoid the mound of dirty laundry because it fills you with dread. Everything you do or stop doing, every relationship you work on or ruin, every decision you make or delay is because of how you feel. You're either running towards an emotion or away from an emotion. Emotions direct you. If you aren't careful, you become a heat-seeking missile, searching out feelings you want and repelling those you despise. An emotion is simply your body's reaction to a thought or belief in your mind. You feel an emotion when you consciously acknowledge and experience an emotion. The thought in your mind that caused the emotion might be conscious or subconscious. You might not be aware of the thought that is creating the emotion, but I promise you, there is one there. Let's say you noticed someone was following you down the street. You'd most likely feel scared. The emotional response would feel automatic and involuntary. But there is a thought that caused the emotion of fear to pop up in your body. If you overheard your son and husband plotting to sneak up on you while you were walking down the street and you noticed them following you, you wouldn't be scared at all. You'd know it was your husband and son. There would still be someone following you, but you'd have a totally different thought about it, which would cause a completely different emotional reaction. That's the power of thoughts, creating an emotional reaction in your body. Confused about emotions. The other day, I was talking to a mom. She was confused. She thought she should always feel happy. She thought if she was frustrated with her kids or with herself, something was wrong and needed to be fixed. She thought nirvana was living a life without negative emotions. But here's the deal. That's not nirvana. That's hell. If we only feel positive emotions, we wouldn't even know they were positive. There would be nothing to compare them to. We are here to feel all of it. The more we feel, the more we live. Nature knows what it's doing. All emotions are here for a reason. If you didn't need them, you wouldn't have them. Learn this for yourself, then teach it to your kids. Stop making emotions scary. Teach your kids that all emotions are allowed, and then live it. Learning how to accept and embrace your emotions is a huge step towards showing up as more patient, understanding, and connected with your kids. A life with only positive emotions is impossible when you're a parent. Even the most enlightened humans still feel everything. They just know how to feel the emotion instead of reacting, avoiding, or resisting the emotion. When you aren't afraid to feel any emotion that comes up in your body, you are unstoppable. I've had so many parents tell me it feels terrible when their child acts rude, disrespectful, or entitled. Negative emotions can feel icky. I get it. You've been taught that feeling a negative emotion means your world is falling apart or that something has gone wrong. I used to think that too. However, it seems like we were made to feel, survive, and even thrive as a result of negative emotions. I have yet to meet a human whose life experience didn't include a 50-50 split of negative and positive emotions. It's not an even split every day, but over the course of a lifetime, it ends up being roughly half and half. The problem is not that it happens. The problem is that no one told us it would happen. We don't realize it's normal to feel negative emotions half of the time, so we judge the negative emotions. We think they shouldn't be there and we try to get rid of them. Instead, we should welcome in the negative emotions as part of the normal human experience. We can become experts at feeling those emotions, metabolizing the negative emotions and using them as fuel to create bigger and better things. I'm going to invite you to make peace with the idea that life is a 50-50 split, or as we call it in our family, half sweet, half sour. Half of the time, your emotions are what you would call positive, and half the time, they're what you would call negative. Thinking life should always be positive doesn't make life more positive. It actually makes life more negative. Thinking you shouldn't be feeling negative and possibly blaming yourself for feeling negative causes more negative emotions, not less. Negative emotions won't hurt you. Negative emotions are harmless. They are not physically unbearable. Even the worst negative emotions you can think of, when felt and experienced, are not actually physically painful. I used to work as a nurse, so let's pretend I could inject you with a cocktail of your least favorite negative emotions. For me, it would be a combination of anger, humiliation, fear, and resentment. What would yours be? Take a second to think of the negative emotions you least like feeling. Got 3 or 4 negative emotions in mind? Great. I'd push those liquid negative emotions right into your veins. It would take effect immediately. Like any good nurse, I'd warn you what to expect before injecting you. I'd let you know that the negative emotions were going to last for a solid 90 seconds, and cause you to experience a few physical sensations, namely heat in your chest, a pounding headache, increased pulse, sweaty palms, the impulse to jump out of your body, a flushed face, and an upset stomach. Then I'd ask if you were ready. You would nod. You'd take a deep breath, accept what was about to happen to you as I injected you with a cocktail of negative emotions. You'd totally handle it without a problem. You'd experience what I described, then it would be over. It would not be the end of the world. Why not? Because you'd accepted what was going to happen and didn't resist it. You knew it wasn't going to hurt you, and you didn't make the negative emotions mean anything about you personally. Most of the time, the suffering you feel as a result of negative emotions is because of your resistance and reluctance to experiencing that emotion. Resistance makes the experience worse. I would always tell my patients to relax when I was about to give them a shot. It was less painful to inject into a relaxed muscle versus a tense muscle. There was less resistance. Pushing against the emotion creates more negativity and suffering. When you fear and resist feeling negative emotions, you suffer and stay stuck with the emotion. When you welcome all emotions in with compassion and empathy, you grow and thrive. The emotion comes in, you experience it, and it goes out. Not afraid of emotions anymore. Something great happens when you aren't afraid of emotions anymore. The kid's behavior can go off track, yet you're able to feel calm and start believing things like, I can handle their big emotions. They don't scare me. I'm not going to leave my child alone to feel this big emotion by themselves. When you aren't afraid of emotions, you know what to do when you get upset, when your child gets upset, when the kids start fighting, when bedtime is hard. This is because you have learned to allow and feel your emotions. You understand that you are supposed to feel all the emotions, and you relax because you know nothing has gone wrong. You know an emotion is just information, a reaction in your body as a result of a thought or belief you're having. Knowing this allows you to fuel your parenting with connection, not correction. You walk into the room when your child is having a tantrum and feel empathy for them instead of frustration. You can notice how the sink full of dishes is causing a bit of frustration to bubble up inside of you, and you feel it instead of reacting to it by yelling. You can stay with your child when they're mad at you without getting defensive or upset. As a result, your child will hear the message, no matter what, I'm here for you. Emotions grow us up. Emotions aren't a defect or a problem to be fixed. They are a critical ingredient in your emotional development and your child's emotional development. You get better at swimming by swimming in water. You get better at feeling by feeling your emotions. When you intentionally experience the entire cycle of an emotion, you become a little more emotionally mature. It isn't something you have to figure out. It's something you must feel and experience. You've got to learn how to feel your emotions before you can help your children feel theirs. Their brains aren't ready to do it on their own. They need you to co-regulate their emotions with them. In fact, brains aren't fully developed until the age of 25 for women and 30 for men. You expect the impossible of your children when you ask them to self-regulate their emotions. Your children need someone to help them regulate their emotions. Physiologically, they can't do it on their own. Their brains are wired to find someone to help them calm down. The way to help them calm down is by letting them feel their emotions within the safety of a strong connection. How many of you reach out to others when things get hard? You do this because your brain knows it needs some help to regulate your emotions. It knows you can't do it on your own. Your kids are wired to need help calming themselves down for the first 2 to 3 decades of their life. Be the one they go to when they feel emotionally out of control. Be the safe place for them to land. Co-regulating your child's emotions is one of the most satisfying things you'll ever do. Once you get the hang of it and stop expecting them to regulate their emotions on their own, you'll be hooked. Creating a safe, judgment-free place for your child to fall apart is one of the most important things you'll do as a parent. It feels amazing, and they'll love you for it. Reacting to and avoiding emotions. Feeling an emotion is different than reacting or resisting an emotion. Reacting to an emotion happens when you let the emotion drive your actions. Reacting often looks like lashing out at yourself or someone else. Blaming, lecturing, yelling are all examples of reacting. Resisting an emotion happens when you try to avoid the emotion. You push the emotion away or keep yourself busy or distracted to not feel the upset, hurt, or disappointment. Resisting an emotion looks like over-cleaning, running non-essential errands, over-exercising, etc. Basically, keeping yourself busy so you don't have to deal with, confront, or feel the emotion that's coming up in your body. Feeling an emotion happens when you allow an emotion to be in your body, accepting that it's there without fighting against it, and consciously noticing the sensation it's creating in your body without resistance. And practicing not believing that this means anything about you or your children. Your options. Let's say you ran a child to a sports practice. By the time you get back to the house, your teens have gotten home from school. You walk into the house only to see backpacks on the table, shoes on the floor, the fridge left open, food on the counter, back door ajar, lights on, and the food that was cooking for dinner eaten. Oh man, your blood starts to boil. You start feeling angry. In the past, you've either reacted or avoided when confronted with blood-boiling situations like this. Option 1, react. You might yell, blame, lecture, or start dishing out consequences to the kids, then call your friend or partner to start complaining about your disrespectful children. Option 2, avoid, repress, resist. You start to feel angry, but then you catch yourself saying, good moms don't get angry. You might blame yourself for not teaching the kids better, then start feeling resentful that the kids are so disrespectful. The emotions feel terrible. You feel out of control, so you now do whatever you can to stop feeling anger. You might pretend you aren't bothered and start cleaning the house by yourself. One of my clients called this the trying not to be angry cleaning. You might get passive-aggressive and tell the kids they need to come clean right now with a fake smile pasted on your face. Or one of my personal favorites, completely ignore the situation and run an errand, take the kids to the park, leave the house to not face it. The most extreme avoidance plan I ever cooked up was a spontaneous trip to Disneyland just to escape the painful reality of what was happening inside of me. The trip lasted for an hour before I turned that car around and flipped into a pretty terrible reaction plan. Thank goodness my children and I can now laugh about this one. Option 3, feeling. Emotions are meant to be felt. I wish we'd been taught to feel our emotions in school. In a Canadian school district, they created feeling rooms. Can you imagine how amazing that would have been as a child? But since most of us didn't have feeling rooms and weren't taught that all emotions were okay, let's do a quick review of what emotions are. Emotions are caused by a thought in your mind that's either conscious or subconscious. Sometimes you're aware of the thought and sometimes you aren't. Once you become aware of the thought and emotions, you can do something about them. Feeling your emotions is something you must do consciously. The emotion is caused by your thoughts. To feel an emotion, you must pause long enough to consciously acknowledge the sensation that the thought is causing in your body. When you feel a negative emotion in your body, you often think something has gone wrong. When you feel a positive emotion in your body, you often think something has gone right. Feeling your emotions starts by accepting all your emotions. Acceptance just means accepting the experience you are having right now. What if instead you just let the emotions be there without the labels of right or wrong? I'm feeling anxious. This is what's happening in my body. I'm feeling happy. This is what's happening in my body right now. Acceptance doesn't mean that you have to keep the emotion forever if you don't want to. It just means that right now In this moment, you are having the experience of feeling this emotion in your body. When you can settle into the acceptance that this emotion is what's happening in your body right now, you can truly begin to feel the emotion. It's easier to feel a positive emotion because it's easier to accept and welcome in a positive emotion. You've been taught that it's okay to feel positive emotions. It's harder to feel a negative emotion because you've been taught that you don't want to feel that way. Feeling the emotion is what gives you power over it. When you are willing to feel any emotion, no emotion is a problem for you. Let me say that again. When you can accept that this is what you are feeling, whether it be anger, sadness, embarrassment, or shame, and when you can just be with that emotion in a compassionate awareness, you'll feel confident that you can feel and do anything. Anyone can develop this superpower. Anyone can get to a point where there is nothing they're unwilling to feel. A negative emotion doesn't mean you're doing something wrong. It means you're doing something right. You're making progress. You're learning to feel anything and not let it stop you from doing anything. Helping your kids feel emotions through crying. The more comfortable you get with feeling all your emotions, the more comfortable you'll be when your kids experience their emotions. All emotions are allowed. When this finally clicked for me, I started repeating this phrase, all emotions are allowed, to my kids and myself, mostly because I needed to hear it. Crying is a valid way children process strong emotions. If you allow your child to cry without making him feel like it's a problem, he'll learn not to be afraid of any emotion and will become more emotionally mature. This means being okay when your toddler cries because he can't have 5 cookies, or your 10-year-old cries for 45 minutes that it's time to go to bed. If you can stay with him and support him, he'll most likely feel cared for at the very time he feels his worst. He feels like his life is falling apart, but you are by his side, reminding him he is safe and you are there for him. Eventually, he'll be done crying. He'll start feeling better and calm down, not because he was told to calm down, but because his body was ready to calm down. He'll be thinking better, his confidence will be high, he'll feel safe and loved by you, his nervous system will relax, the natural cycle of an emotion will have taken place. Your child, as a result of the experience, will have emotionally grown up a bit. Why? Because he was allowed to feel an emotion all the way through nature's emotional cycle from mad to sad. The Sunday review. Most mornings, I spend 30 minutes doing my meditation, thought downloads, and coaching myself. It helps me sit in my thoughts and feel my emotions. On Sundays, I usually do a review of the week. One Sunday, this is what I wrote. This week was terrible and amazing. Stuff happened, stuff did not happen. I had so many emotions, negative emotions, positive emotions, but I didn't act on my negative emotions. I just felt them. Frustrated, sad, disappointed, anxious, nervous, worried, excited, satisfied, happy, content. I'm human. This is my life right now. The good, the bad, the beautiful, the ugly. Yes to all of it. I'm grateful for it all. It's taken me years to figure out how to feel an emotion and years to learn how to help my children feel their emotions. It's been one of the most messy, confusing, frustrating, exhilarating, freeing experiences of my life. And I'm still learning. Understanding and feeling your emotions is one of the greatest gifts you will ever give yourself and your children. Your turn. Take action in 30 minutes or less. In this chapter, I talked about creating a get plan with my daughter. She was struggling and thought she was mean. Have you or your child let something you've done define you? Customize the get plan for you or them. As you listen, fill in the blanks. Gentle. I'm practicing being gentle and compassionate with myself, even when I think of a behavior or action that you wish you hadn't done. Emotions. I feel, think of an emotion that you feel when you think about this situation. And remind yourself that you're learning to welcome all emotions in. Time. It takes time to change. I'm learning to be patient. When I think about the situation, I want to think, fill in the blank, about it. Trying. I'm doing my best even when my best is terrible. I see that now. From now on, when I mess up, I want to think, fill in the blank, about me.
If you enjoyed listening to this podcast, come check out League, my Connect Method parenting coaching program, where we take this material and we apply it using my proven formula. Head over to cmp.works/join.